Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. I'm Andrew Daley, the founder of Daley and AgentIQ Procurement, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Jacopo Gallucci, one of the founding members of the Rivio team. Jacopo, welcome.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
No, it's my pleasure. So Jacopo, I met the founding team of Rivio at DPW in New York in June. I was very impressed by what you guys are building there. Looking at your website, it says that Rivio is not a tool, it's your full-time AI procurement employee. In simple terms, what does that really mean, Jacopo?
Yeah, what we're seeing now is that with AI coming in, most of the people think about AI like a software tool on steroids, which is kind of a stronger software tool. The reality is we're talking about intelligence. And as we're talking about intelligence, we are in effect rebuilding and re-engineering colleagues, employees, which are obviously have an artificial brain. So they work with artificial intelligence to give you all the intelligence and the collaboration that you need. So the way we are building AI for procurement at Rivio is really try to build a colleague that can help you. So it's not a software, it's not software plus AI, it's real AI agents that can take actions, understand what you need, what you want to do, and act on your behalf, act with you, help you with your daily tasks. So that's basically the way we consider ourselves at Rivio is we want to be the best university in the world for procurement AI agents. So we're like 100% of our time goes into training and understanding how to build the best AI colleagues by using the best technology that you can find out there. So that's what we do at Rivio.
Thank you. Okay, that's really interesting to understand. I think when we spoke, we recognised that it can be quite a daunting topic for a lot of people who are not technically minded, understanding AI. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. I think one of the things we spoke about was that really education needs to come before companies can think about implementation and adoption, especially something as transformational as agentic AI. So I think you've developed a framework at Rivio about how you address some of these misconceptions head on. So today we're going to talk about the 5 misconceptions we've highlighted to try and educate our listeners. So let's unpack each of these and you can hopefully educate us along the way. So the first, number one, you've touched on this already. AI is just better software. So you said before companies need to stop thinking in terms of software licensing and start thinking about hiring AI. Can you explain what that shift in mindset might look like?
Yes. So look, if we take a step back, up until now, there has been a huge change in how we do procurement. But the simple fact that we introduced software, and software has become better and better over time. So the last wave of software obviously made productivity much higher and is improving the life of procurement professionals and all the business owners around that. Now with AI coming in, we see 2 things that are happening. There's legacy software and a newer software, which is applying AI to improve their UX and the productivity. So it's helping you with some steps. Most of these AI integrations are really very small steps where you can basically automate some stuff that we were doing before by either working outside of the platform or the software or working within the software, but having to click a lot of buttons and going through a lot of workflows. Now, AI can simplify that. On the other side, AI is so powerful that it can be smart, it can be intelligent, it can know what to do. So using it only for like clicking or automating simple steps is really underusing the power of AI. So what we see now is players, and this is relatively novel. So people are talking about this. It seems like it's all over the place. The reality is it's still developing. We still need to understand also how the technology reacts. The technology is evolving super fast. So also models are changing every day, every week. And with this type of AI, we're able to build what people call AI agents, which is AI which acts, AI that understands. And this will work with software as humans work with software.
Yeah.
So this is why normally when we talk to partners, when we talk to prospective clients, the first thing we say is we're not here to talk about any other tool or that you should replace any of your tools. We're talking about your talent strategy. So we're talking about AI agents are closer to a colleague, an employee. So it's closer to a hiring decision than understanding how your tech stack should evolve in terms of tools and the integrations and how they work with your ERP. So this is the misconception sometimes that there is no difference between, okay, AI agents just on top of software and software just on top of processes. It's all together. The reality is when you design your procurement of the future organization and tech stack, it's two things that work together. So it's your software tech stack, which ideally should be updated and up to standards, and most likely it will have also AI incorporated. And then there's AI agents, which act on all the systems that you have. So normally AI agents will work with different softwares and different systems. And so you have this, it's a more complex way to look at AI, but it's what makes software and agents work together. And this is really the new push to augment productivity, to get better deals, to get better negotiations, right? So that's something that we have been discussing a lot at DPW as well, right? Where like what is the role of AI agents and how do they work with current software?
Yeah. So really think about them in terms of more like employees than actual software tools, because they work with the software tools. I think that corresponds to some of the conversations I'm now having with people who are exploring this about, collaborating with them rather than using them as a tool, and what that means for job specifications and, of course, operating models moving forward. And I think it's very exciting that people are starting to have these conversations now. And it's all new, isn't it? It's all new every day. There's no sort of textbook to work on. It's people always make it up as they go along, but in a good way.
Yes, and I think the CEO of NVIDIA said earlier, I don't know if it was this year or last year, that the IT function in companies will be the new HR, which to a certain extent I agree. What we're thinking now, and we're kind of pushing as a motto, is a provocation, obviously, is that procurement is going to be the new HR, because as procurement is obviously involved in super strategic discussions about how do we shape categories of spend and so what do my business owners want to implement from here up until the next 5-10 years. It's not only around how I spend my money in terms of the tools I buy, the services I buy, and that's where procurement comes in. It's more and more becoming also a talent strategy. So every business owner will go to procurement also asking, hey, by the way, I need to hire AI agents. So now, is this like a procurement job or an HR job? The lines are blurring. So that's why we're like, the provocation is procurement might be the new HR, or might be also HR for all the departments in your company, which are now adopting also agentic solutions or agentic talent to work with their human counterparts and work with the systems they already have.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that more a little bit later on. But it's a really interesting dynamic and a really interesting sort of conundrum to get your head around. But I mean, it takes us on to our next misconception. And I think this is the one which is perhaps one of the most high profile, and one which I'm concerned is creating some resistance to change in some people, because it creates a bit of fear, and that is that the perception that AI will replace entire roles. So, people are worried about it replacing jobs, but I think you've got a different perspective in the way that you look at it, into it's going to replace parts of jobs rather than entire roles. Just sort of tell us how that might play out in practice, if you would do, please, Jacopo.
Yeah. This is a bit a problem that we see with certain organizations. The more complex the organization, the more difficult it becomes, because if it's a one person show in a procurement team, normally they are overwhelmed. So whatever help they can get, it's good. And an AI agent will take part of a one person job. It will not be able to be the procurement department in a company with only one procurement person, right, a professional. As you scale the team, what will happen is that if you think about getting efficiency or productivity of one of the teams, let's say we have a category team that is managing software, a category team that is managing professional services, and I bring in an AI agent to basically do productivity in that area and that vertical, it will become more difficult. So because you will want the AI agents to perform as a human, which is extremely flexible. And that's the beauty of human beings. They learn super fast. They can use tools across physical spaces, virtual spaces. They have this amazing skill set of interacting with humans, being social. So this will not be replaced, right? So what we need to think, and what organizations need to think about, is what are the chores, the part of the jobs that today are really like also a productivity drainer. Some stuff that is also like repetitive, some stuff that maybe is cool to do but takes a lot of time. Like, for example, we've talked to a lot of procurement professionals that really put a lot of effort in preparing negotiations, which is a super cool part of the procurement job for me. Really understanding the vendor, understanding what the internal teams, how they're using a tool, how they're using a service. Are they happy? Are they not happy? Do they want to renew? Do they want to switch to a new vendor? And all of this preparation takes a lot of work. It's also interesting, right? It's one of the most interesting part, I think, of a procurement professional job. But it's something you can delegate to an AI agent. Now, would you delegate the negotiation? No. So the idea is, the procurement professional is doing a lot of different things. The AI agent will never be able to do all of these different skills and handle all of these different situations, which go from physical world to virtual world. So where we need to apply it and where it's best used is in specific tasks. So it's preparation, it's reading, and it's analyzing, it's cross-checking. It's all these things that require a lot of time, and sometimes are also a productivity or an energy drainer. And as you take on a colleague to do that, you can obviously free up time to think more about strategy. For example, a lot of professionals tell us every day, I don't have enough time to review the strategy, to be the business partner I want to be for my business owner and my business teams, to help them shape the right category strategy or the right sourcing strategy. Sometimes I don't have the time just to understand, okay, what are the players out there? What do my teams really want? This is the type of gain we want to achieve with having the AI agents doing that part of the job and freeing up more time on the strategic side.
Yeah, I mean, from a skills perspective at AgentIQ Procurement, we're classifying that as sort of AI efficiency. So recognizing the value of the time-saving capability. To your point, in preparation for a negotiation, there's so much that it can do to save that time and make you more informed, more effective. I think it's something which we're starting to talk to procurement leaders about. I've had a couple of engaging conversations this week already, actually, about roles being redesigned to reflect this. So to your point, you might take away 20% of the role, which is the time-consuming, sometimes laborious part of the job. That frees up quite a significant chunk of time, so that you're able to sort of reclaim, 80% of your role. Well, then, okay, what skills do you need to do that? So that AI efficiency, if you will, is what creates the opportunity. But then there's the other skills you need to really take advantage of that opportunity. So I think we're definitely into the conversations now about how that's going to change roles. And you might see job specifications that sort of list the tasks done by the human and the tasks that they orchestrate done by the agent, for example. I think moving forward, I think we'll see that fairly soon. I'm sure there's a lot of conversation about that already. So that's an interesting shift in operating models and job specifications for the human beings.
Yeah, and to be very frank, obviously, because we are talking about AI and we know how AI will change our organizations and our economy. Obviously, if you take on a large scale, or if you have a team of 20, if every person in your team is delegating 20% to an AI agent, obviously there will be, like, on the larger scale, there will be productivity, right? But it's not that you can cut chunks off. This is the important message. Obviously, there will be productivity, right? And there will be shifts needed, and that's how also I think, again, it's about finding the new role, redesigning roles. And that's the challenge. So the most important thing, most likely now for procurement professionals, is also to learn AI, to learn how to prompt, to know what prompting or prompt engineering means, right? Everyone from procurement to finance to marketing will become a prompt engineer, and will be speaking more and more to AI agents. So that's kind of a way maybe to protect yourself and also to upskill yourself in a way that you can also interact in the best way with your AI colleagues from now until the future.
Absolutely, and bring that back to the skills conversation, Jacopo. I mentioned AI efficiency. I think a lot of the moment people will perhaps use Copilot, for meeting transcription, or conversations, and there's a bit of a time saving there. But obviously, agents take it to another level. But that prompting, we're talking now about AI fluency, about actually understanding how for example, Gen AI works in particular, but also orchestrating the agents. That AI fluency of understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the models, how you get the best of it, how you train the model to be more effective for you. So these are all conversations that are part of what I think is the future sort of AI in procurement skill set. And I think the other thing that's very interesting is that, I've talked to a lot of people at procurement events in particular, the pressure is on procurement leaders to deliver more with less. And so when teams are really stretched and are, are struggling to deliver against the expectations from their organizations, this ability to free up all that time can potentially be a game changer for those procurement teams that are under so much pressure. So I think that's one of the areas where I see that will perhaps drive demand for tools like Rivio. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and this is where it becomes tricky, right? Because we see senior leadership, like really top management, is pushing for huge productivity gains, because the run for productivity is there, right? Also, there is a talent crunch, right? So it's both ways. It's difficult to find the right talent, and plus there is a huge push on productivity. This makes it very hard for any procurement leader or any department leader to find these efficiencies. Now, I think we need to be a bit realistic on the expectation. So also, my suggestion and my conversations that I had with procurement leaders is we need to manage expectations with top management, that now by adopting any AI agentic solution, it's not that we can now do like 50% productivity, or we can handle, I don't know, 200 more requests a month from 200 we already were managing with like a super stretched team, right? So eventually this will happen. Eventually we will be able to reach huge productivity gains, but we need to manage the expectation. Also, we need to find the right place to start from and not like overwhelm the whole team, throughout software, throughout people. Like this is not going to work. So it needs to also be staggered. It needs to be built on top. People need to trust the technology. People need to build also the right skills to use this new technology. So it's not that overnight, okay, in 6 months time we do productivity 20%, we can handle more stuff. This is not going to happen. Like this won't work.
Yeah, indeed, and that touches on the next misconception I wanted to address, really, because I think it leads into the point, we need the perfect AI solution first to get started. And I think that perfection trap is one which we hear a lot about with data in procurement. That's been a common theme at all events I've been going to for the many years I go to these things. Oh yeah, we can't get started, our data's a mess. But I think a lot of companies get sort of paralyzed waiting for the perfect use case or the right tool. But it sounds like you're saying start small, learn, and that's a great place to begin. Is that fair?
Yeah, and that's what we normally suggest, and there it's more of understanding how to work with your current systems, how to work with your current team to get the best way to integrate or implement or basically onboard, if you think about it, an AI employee. And I think what I've seen is, due to this push and this hype in AI agents and AI employees, the expectation is, okay, now we go and this is going to be changing the whole organization. And also the expectation is that the maturity of AI agents will be the same as I'm buying, I don't know if I can name names, but big procurement tools that have been there for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
When you implement such a solution, there's been like 20 years of work of hundreds of software engineers, of product managers that have designed this. So when you implement that, it's complex, but it can also manage complexity, right?
Yeah.
Whether it does it in a good way or not, there's difference in tools, obviously.
That's a whole other conversation, Jacopo.
Exactly. I know. Obviously, we're a challenger, right? We're coming in, so we like to work with smart tools, right? Our AI employees like to work with the smartest tools, not with the outdated ones. But so the point I'm making here is you need to be realistic, and you need to start from something that is manageable and can be a scope, and can also be given to the right people that will work with it, because as it is a nascent technology, you cannot roll it out blindly to the whole organization.
Yeah.
And that's the same we see with co-pilots, for example, right? The companies that are most successful run out co-pilots, maybe with their tech team, with their more engineering team, whoever is more kind of tech enthusiast is already like working with a lot of dev tools or tech tools, and then they're rolling it out to all the other departments. And this is a good way to think about it, right? If you think, okay, now we need to switch to AI agents, and this will replace whole processes, it will change like entirely a department or entirely a business unit, this will not work, right? Which is different from if you go through a huge transition in an ERP or an important procurement tool, which is still software. So this is why the misconception happens. It will affect the whole company, right? If you change an ERP or a procurement tool or P2P tool, this will change, like this will touch so many different departments, right? But it can handle that because it has been there for years. It's designed for complexity. It's designed to handle that. We're still working on a technology that is ever changing, so we need to manage expectation and scope it in a way that we can start small, and then as people trust it, because it's so reactive, it's so intelligent, it's not static, it's not just clicking. As we get this adoption, then we can roll it out, and it will work.
Yeah.
It will work. Actually, many times it actually outperforms the expectations then. Of what it can handle, also what the edge cases, how many different scenarios it can handle, because it is so smart.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, there was a great presentation in New York actually in June by Aditya Chalalpally, I think, from Microsoft, who also works at Stanford and MIT, very, very bright guy. And he talked about the pilots that have been successful so far in enterprise adoption of AI being where you started with an area of high pain, but a varying degrees of complexity, but very, very sort of, you can really sort of define a start and end point of that process. And I think that's where they've had success. And I think one of the things that was one of the benefits of doing that is that if you can find something which human beings hate doing, that's time consuming, boring, and take it away from them, not only is there a significant win in terms of the time saved, as we already touched on, but also from a change management perspective, that impresses people, that sees a real benefit, and that wins the hearts and minds, particularly those who might be a little bit sort of reluctant to make the change. It's like, actually, you know, this can actually make a difference. But to your point, don't expect to revolutionize the whole department overnight.
Yeah. That's also from taking from the experience of how we're building the skills of our AI agents is the skills that get kind of promoted or get asked the faster, get adopted the fastest, are the ones that do some stuff that you don't even realize how much time it takes. I'm making an example, for example, how much time do we lose as procurement organizations in checking documents that are coming to your inbox from a vendor? Like every time, imagine you're negotiating, and you know you will have different quotations, different order forms, different scope of works, which will be versions. Every time a version comes, you want to check that against what you said in the previous call, what you discussed in the thread, what internally you said, oh, by the way, this is not okay, so we need to change that clause, we need to change that price, we need to challenge that. Or maybe I got some benchmarking from a consultant, so I know, oh, I'm overpaying. So all these iterations, all this information lives kind of in your brain. And every time a new email comes in from that vendor, or a new communication comes in from that vendor, you have to regroup all your thoughts. And how much time does that drain? While if you have a smart colleague which actually knows all the time and already has read the document and proposes you a draft email to reply, or proposes you how to go on in negotiation, what's the best in the next negotiation step, that's how the adoption goes very fast, because you see, okay, I would have needed like maybe half a day to regroup my thoughts and design a negotiation strategy. Now all the kind of collecting the information is done by someone else, and now I can focus really half an hour. What do I want to get out of this negotiation? How do I get the best deal for my business or for my company? And then you go on, right? Instead of having, okay, now I'll go to the system to check, and then what was the last version, right? And that's a very, like, these examples, these use cases are very good examples where to start from. And it's very small, right? If you think about it, you're just looking at documents, for example, you're just looking at versioning, at negotiations, or this is really a small place to start from, but there's so much to gain.
Yeah, indeed. I think that sort of example brings us on to the next misconception that I want to address with you, which is this thinking that AI is just fancy automation. I think besides the job losses concern, I think this is the one which is perhaps most misunderstood in the non-technical community, which most procurement professionals are. So the idea that AI just suits up RPA, but to your point, it can learn, it can reason, and bring institutional knowledge. So, can you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, this is really a huge struggle. And I think I cannot remember who said it in one of the DPW conferences, that there is a gap of imagination. And we really believe that, and we see that. This is like, we have proof of that in the conversations we have, is that when you think about AI, 90% of people, when they think about AI, will think, okay, this will automate work, this would automate processes. And we briefly touched upon this previously, but if you think about AI and agentic AI as, okay, now let me have it do automation, this is really underusing the power of it.
Yeah.
And why? Because automation many times can be designed in a deterministic way. It can already be done without agentic AI. Sometimes actually it's better, because AI agents are not deterministic. They are, in the way they think, and this resembles a bit how you humans think. They're not deterministic. They have these shades. If you ask ChatGPT or any other chatbot the same question over and over, they don't answer every time the same thing, right? So that's the key difference, right? Why when you have a deterministic system, you just say, okay, A is B and B is C and so on, right? And for automation, sometimes that is actually much more powerful than an agentic system. So depending on the complexity of the automation, if you have an automation across systems which they don't talk to each other, an agent will be very helpful. But if you have legacy systems, if you have a tech stack which is basically broken, AI agents might not be the right solution. Maybe the problem is your tech stack. Just get your tech stack in order. Yeah. If your processes are fragmented and don't talk to each other, and I'm talking about processes, not softwares, maybe the process is not, needs to be reshaped or optimized, right? AI agents will not make the process better if the process is just broken, right? So this is where and a lot of companies come to us, and I know from other founders in procurement, but also outside of procurement, that the push is, I want to put AI agents on top just to eliminate the inefficiencies of how the organization is designed. Unfortunately, I think you will not be happy with that, because it will work to a certain extent. It might help, but the underlying problem is more about how you design your system and your process. Right. And also you're using a technology, you're underusing a technology. So a technology that has strategic capabilities, has memory, can understand over time, can learn with you, can compound its learning, is used for, okay, I'm taking from one system and inputting to the other. This is like, you would never do that. You would never hire a procurement director to integrate systems, right? That's how we should start to think about it, and start to think about use cases. which require this type of strategic intelligence and memory and understanding.
Yeah, and you touched on the memory there. It's one thing which I wanted to clarify in my own mind, which anything else is, when you've got that memory for the organisation, how is that agent's memory actually governed in terms of who owns the learning over the time, and how is it sort of, one of the things I think a lot of people consider about compliance and security. So how does that all work, Jacopo?
Yeah, this obviously can have different guardrails and different levels of security, depending on also the approach or the security approach that any client have. And obviously we see bigger enterprises being much more strict on that. And maybe if you look at startups or scale ups, obviously they have a different approach, or maybe smaller companies might be more risk taking in trying the technology while it's still basically having guardrails that need to be discovered. We decided to take an approach which is more conservative on this side. So what we do is we only use models and we only use technology that is not training on the data of our clients.
Right.
So the way we're basically renting the brain, but we're not giving the brain, which obviously is provided by foundational models. We're not giving them access to any of the data of the client, so they cannot train on data. Where memory comes into place is how we structure the data of our clients in a way that it's the right context for the AI to understand. So that's the key difference of whatever is the data that you provide. We can structure it in a way that this forms a long-term memory, which is almost like a procurement brain.
Right.
That lives with your company and in your company, with your guardrails, with your policies, and whatever action, whatever AI agent is performing tasks in your organization, it will draw on that procurement brain.
Right.
Which can live also in a separate instance at your premise. It can be obviously like the guardrails can be the maximum security as you want. So that's the way how we think. So there is no training done. We do no training. What we do is we use the best models, we use the best technology, we combine it with the best context, which is then this mid to long-term memory that is given to the agent. We maintain it as well because it becomes a lot, so it needs also a kind of a cleanup mechanism. And you get what you would get from this older colleague which has been there forever and remembers even conversations and negotiations that were done by predecessor of your predecessor. Just because he was listening to that video call, he was CC'd on that emails, he was there in the Teams channel where this was discussed in 2023, why we should renew, why we should buy this service. So it knows that. So imagine what that triggers, right? Well, and that's why this is not automation, right? This is knowledge. This is intelligence. It's not about like, okay, I go and then I know that on the system there is this in 2023. No, it knows. It has the context.
Yeah.
And then it answers like instantaneously to a question.
Yeah. And is that a question that a lot of potential buyers of your solutions are asking about, that security around the memory and that sort of that brain that you rent, that intelligence that you're talking about?
Of course, yeah. This is and rightfully so, right? So very often, obviously, we have a dedicated part of the process also on the security and also on scoping and understanding, okay, what are your AI policies? What do you care about? What is data that you're comfortable to share or to have basically handled by anything that we do is anyway has the highest level of security, but obviously there is organizations that don't want the data to leave their premises or their systems or their databases. So obviously this is also a bit managed by case, but it is a major concern. What I think, and here a bit of push to companies is sometimes I see there is like AI committees or security committees, which are very, in a general way, they push back on AI.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a pity, and I understand why. I've worked for large companies. I know how risk averse large corporates are, and for a good reason, because they represent almost like an economy. They're like, they need to be stable. Their reputation is super important. So if any data leak happens, this is like, even if it's a small thing, it will damage their reputation. Stock market will go crazy. All these things, right?
Yeah.
But if you have this approach of saying no to anything this external, that to anything that's AI, you might be foregoing the biggest wave in innovation. So again, to the other misconception, the other thing we were talking about, start small. Maybe start from somewhere where like you're comfortable to play with, you're comfortable with experimenting with. So if there's areas which are very sensitive and you know they're sensitive, don't do it, and push your infosec team or your AI security team a bit more to try new tools, to try new AI, because it will require a lot of influencing, a lot of like explanation, and we're trying to do the best to give all the data, the policies, the documents, the certifications that we have, all the stuff that we've done to be ready to handle that data.
Yeah, indeed. And I think, one of the things that, again, referencing the presentation made by Aditya Chalapalli in New York, was that he was talking about the fact that probably sales and customer service is a little bit further down the track now with agents. And of course, we've seen a lot of automation in those areas in the past, where we interact with companies or agents or other bots, I should say, on websites. And this is one of the things which I think is quite an interesting dynamic for procurement, because not only is there great opportunity for procurement to embrace generative and agentic AI solutions itself, but what's its role in buying those tools for other departments in the organization that also have their own AI revolution available to them. So, this found misconception that procurement just buys tech for departments, but actually now it's got a role to play in designing the human AI workforce, as that changes the role of procurement from buyer to workforce designer. You referenced the new HR earlier. I mean, how do you envisage that playing out, Jacopo?
Yes. So that's again to the point we were discussing before. So one interesting conversation I had with a procurement leader a couple of weeks ago was he was saying, I see like every every conversation I have with vendors, so with account executives or sales manager of our vendors, I see they are joining with their assistant, with their recorder. And he's I do not have a recorder. Like I'm not recording these conversations, but the sales teams on the other side, like basically 80% of the vendors now, or of the vendors represented, have a recorder. So he was like, it seems like there is some stuff that is happening which I'm not seeing. And this for me was like, it clicked in my mind that we see, and this is very consistent also if I now take really the startup, as we are like an innovation company, and we look at other startups, other like what are the VCs investing in, what is happening in the startup ecosystem, you see that AI agents were first roll out and are very present in the sales operations.
Yeah.
I think they're much more advanced. And by the way, these are the counterparts to procurement. So whenever you jump on a call and the salesperson has a recorder, it means they know everything about what you said. And they know, like, they can use the weaknesses and the strength in the negotiation much better than a human. You can take notes, you can do all the things that you normally do, but recording 100% of the conversation, understanding, processing it, and putting it on a timeline, this is something this is very powerful, right? And as we see this happening in sales, this is happening in recruitment. We're using AI agents for recruiting. We're using, like, in many operations. Obviously, we're a smaller team, we're a nascent team, but we're using AI agents everywhere now.
Yeah.
And if we are doing it, obviously larger organizations are also adopting it in a more structured and a more kind of phased way. But this will come also to all the procurement teams that we are talking with today, that they will need to understand, okay, so you have your traditional vendors of services, products, anything in procurement, and then you have tech vendors, which can give you tools and software, which might have some AI components, and then you have suddenly workforce providers, um, but not of human workforce, of AI workforce.
Yeah.
And now, when you do a category strategy meeting, or you do your monthly update with your, say, engineering team, or with your head of marketing, head of brand, whatever, it's not only going to be about, okay, do we want to renew the CRM? Do we want to check this marketing agency, what they're doing, if they're doing well? It's going to be about, okay, how do we integrate AI workforce into your vendor ecosystem or into your team? And I think procurement will have to play a major role in this, and it's a bit difficult because you become not only a business partner for how do I spend the money well, how do I get an amazing vendor ecosystem that enables my objectives, my goals, but now you become also, how do I design my human and AI workforce to reach those goals, which is something that normally would be in the HR camp, right? Normally would be really like HR talent strategy. So how are you going? So increasingly, I think a procurement leader will find itself asking, so how do you think your team will evolve to the, for example, the head of engineering or head of operations? How is your team evolving? But not to assess the usage of a tool. Okay, how many seats do you need for the CRM, or how many seats do you need for your ERP? But it's more about, okay, how can we design your organization to handle some stuff, or handle with humans and handle with the AI agents, which is a new question. I think this is something that is also a bit discomforting, because it's a skill set that we need to build as procurement professionals. But again, it's also a super interesting new skill to learn, and that's why, again, to before we're now putting this provocation and circling it around more as a joke, more as maybe a reality, that procurement will be the new HR, or might be kind of an additional, might need additional HR skills, which currently is not like the case all the times. So that's kind of the other misconception, or the other thing that we see, that as you buy tech now as a procurement function, you will also buy smart tech, which is more an HR and a hiring decision than a purchasing decision.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about rather than buying AI, actually hiring AI, and to your point, procurement teams now need to be in the room when decisions are made in other functions about what work stays human, what work is handed to agents, how those pieces fit together, all the implications from a compliance and security perspective. And I think what that really means is that now talent strategy and AI strategy are absolutely intertwined forevermore now. Historically, they've been two different things, tech strategy and talent strategy, but now the two are go close together. I had that conversation with some American customers last month about that shift in mindset about your talent strategy and your AI strategy have to now go hand in hand. I think that's one of the reasons why we're launching this new business, because it's putting demands on procurement that have not been there before. So even if procurement itself is not that enthused about embracing AI yet, they're going to see demand and pressure from the organisation to contribute when other parts of the organisation, like sales, like customer success, are doing it. So yeah, it's fascinating time, new skills, great opportunity, and I think for those people that are excited by this, we talk a lot about intellectual curiosity being a very important skill set in procurement. I don't think it's ever been more important, because there's no limits to what you can learn when you dive into AI, start to engage with it, collaborate with it, and explore what it can do. And I think that's going to be a very, very valuable part of what procurement brings to every organization, wherever they're hiring AI across the world. Right. So I think that's covered our big five misconceptions. I think there's a number of things that we can take from that. And so, but I think for me, it's very excited about the capabilities and the skills that procurement teams are going to be able to develop, and the potential that exists for AI to support their ability to deliver value to the organisation. I think I've got one final question for you, Jacopo. You've got 30 seconds with a skeptical CPO who's still thinking about tech as tools, is scared about AI. What would you say to that person?
Don't miss out. So if you now think about AI very skeptically, and you miss out on this wave, you will find yourself in a place where you're gonna be way behind other players, and that's only because of the nature of this technology, which is compounding. It is learning. So it's like you are hiring too late. If you're not hiring today and building your talent for the next 3 years, you're gonna be left out in 3 years. That everyone has already a 3-year-old or three-year tenured AI professional, and you're hiring an intern. So you're gonna be 3 years behind. That's the way to think about, and it's gonna be difficult to hire an AI later on without having this learning curve, which is also internal. It's something very company specific. So that's like, okay, it was more than 30 seconds, but it's don't miss out.
Good answer. Good answer. Okay, actually great. So thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed the conversation. Very, very informative from my perspective. If any of our viewers want to get in touch with you about understanding what your solutions can do right now and what your product roadmap looks like, how can people get in contact with you, Jacopo?
Yeah, sure. So we have a website, so www.rivio.ai. You can also contact me directly, which is Jacopo@rivio.ai. And I'm super happy to continue this conversation. It's more about designing, understanding. So I'm really happy to have a first conversation, understand where your thoughts are at, and then maybe there's some partnering we can do. Also through you and Rio, obviously, if there's anything that comes your way, happy to help with anything we can do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm already having conversations about the skills and the talent angle and what it means to develop an AI-ready team. That's why I'm launching this new business, AgentIQ Procurement. So there'll be more of that on the new website coming soon. But certainly, I anticipate referring people to you, saying, look, talk to Jacopo and the team at Rivio to learn more about some of the issues we've addressed today and getting more into the actual application of the tool. So, look, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone, for taking time to watch this. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And of course, you can always get me via andrew@everyday.com or, of course, on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.